Welcome back to another episode of Slunge Underground. Sticking with the line of interviewing all the finalists of the Battle for Wacken Sub-Saharan Africa, I have got some of the guys from Hiraeth with me today. Guys, introduce yourselves and what it is you do in the band.
Hey, I am Gareth, and I am the vocalist.
Hi, I'm Marty, and I am the vocalist. And we are from Hiraeth.
Hiraeth. I am so sorry I got that wrong, but
Oh, don't worry. We're not saying it correctly either. So we read the name on paper, and we're like, that looks cool. And then only about a year after did we actually look up how to pronounce it. And we're wrong.
Yeah, it's actually a Welsh word. So the correct pronunciation would actually be something along the lines of Hiraeth.
Hiraeth.
And we kind of just made it our own sound. So Hiraeth.
Yeah, that sounds the correct way of pronouncing it sounds more like a power metal band, which you guys are not.
Definitely not.
Yet.
But this, it's getting there. I mean, how are you guys feeling about your heat win that was at Rumors? It was I think 2 weeks back.
Quite surprised.
Yeah, we did not plan on winning. And funny story, Lana and Sash actually messaged us last year around November, and they were like, shit, listen guys, we really need like one more Joburg band. Do you guys have any idea who would be available or keen? And I said, hey, let me ask Hiraeth. We just got a new guitarist, and let's see if we can fill in that last slot. So it was kind of like not planned, and the goal was never to win. So that was quite a surprise.
We were stressed about being just ready for the show because it's been many
3 years
since this band played. So we were like, oh, we just got to practice and write new material and focus on just showing up.
Show, yeah.
Your heat, the competition was extremely stiff as well. Like you guys were up against some bands that brought everything. I absolutely hated being a judge that night. I'm going to be honest with you. It was horrible. How are you guys feeling about so we've got all the finalists at last. How are you guys feeling about the bands from across Africa that have gotten through to the finals as well?
Oh my God. I think this year's Wacken Finals is very intriguing. So many new bands that have gone through, like Die Gemeente, for example, brand new band, absolutely smashed their heat. Yeah, so I'm very excited, especially for the African bands. I always love seeing the African bands.
No, it is actually something quite special to behold, because I think we're quite spoiled here in South Africa, being exposed to the local bands that we all know and love. And Wacken has helped to introduce us to other bands coming from other countries in Africa, doing their best to make hardcore music as well and get somewhere with it, and it's definitely broadened my perspective of what I think is really going on this continent. The truth is, metal is more well spread in Africa than I thought. Absolutely. And it's actually it's quite a nice feeling, and it also makes me wonder, well then, if we can say we've got metal bands from the south to the north of Africa, how come the world doesn't know about it? All everyone ever speaks about is this band from Europe, that band from the States, but no one is talking about Africa. And I think Wacken is probably indirectly having the side effect where it is bringing Africa to the forefront. And I think that is probably the most special thing for me.
On the note that you're talking about, like the bands from Africa, I made friends with someone through TikTok of all places, a girl who's based in Tunisia. And when you think of a
What?
place like Tunisia, you also don't necessarily think metal. And she ended up sending me a whole bunch of Tunisian metal bands that were sick. I was like, holy shit. And then also now with this, getting to speak to a lot of, like, we got to speak to the Namibians, so far I've spoken to the guy As Night Fades from the Namibia. We've spoken to the Botswana guys. Got to speak to the Kenya guys. Yeah, it's actually great, and these guys are so passionate about it as well. But when you speak to them, you also find out, like you said, how kind of spoiled we are, where the struggles that we have, they have it like 10 times worse. So it's very interesting.
Absolutely. We actually don't have it that bad. We were chatting to Chris from Vulvodynia not too long ago, and he was also just reaffirming that. He was saying, we think we have it so bad in South Africa, but actually, some of the places they've been to, South Africa has it very good. Good venues with good sound, good people, good following, good interaction, all of that. Yeah, we're spoiled brats.
I think it's easy to get kind of like locked in and look outwards instead of just, I don't know. I want to say, like, be grateful for what you got. Doesn't mean don't improve it, but at the same time, be thankful for the things that you do have.
Yes, no, for sure. It's like there's always room for growth, but it is very special. I remember when I moved to SA, I had no idea that someone like me would have the opportunity to get onto a stage. That was pretty eye-opening for me when I got here, and I remember that feeling of thinking like, wow, they will actually let like normal people do this. Like, I didn't understand how to go about it yet, but I still try to hold on to that initial memory of coming into the metal scene, of just being like, wow, this is a platform that really allows alternative people to express themselves, and that can't take that for granted.
And how are you feeling for about the prospect of going over to Germany and representing South Africa, or Africa as a whole, over that side?
It gives me a mild seizure, so if I don't blink for 20 minutes, I probably need the hospital. But the pressure just seems very overwhelming, to represent a country. I'm so worried I'm going to say something stupid.
What did he say?
Um, it's very scary, and it's very overwhelming. I think if Hiraeth does get chosen, obviously I will be eternally grateful and just very proud of the team, and very grateful of all our supporters and all of that. But to actually represent them and say something on a global platform, it's very scary. I'm not going to lie. You know what? I'm just going to ask Marty to do the talking. Done.
Oh no, I am even worse in that regard. My anxiety when it comes to talking is like, make me sing, I'm good. Make me talk, nah. But I will say it would be such a privilege to be able to do that. And I'm sure the bands that have gone through feel the same way. I have noticed how it absolutely changes their perception of our community and themselves as musicians as well when they return back from Wacken. Yeah, just an absolute privilege to be
That's
able to
true,
do that.
hey?
Yeah.
Some of the bands that come back, their professionalism and their promptness almost gets like bumped up a couple levels. And I think that would be
Yeah.
pretty exciting to level up in that way, because you're now going from a local platform to an international platform. I think that sort of growth, that's quite exciting to look towards.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure that they were just as anxious and nervous. And also, I get major imposter syndrome just doing this.
Mm.
So I don't know if I'd be able to cope going any further than this.
And it's interesting that you guys say that, like, where the band seems like leveled up when they come back. Because if I think about like some of the previous guys who have gone over, like Red Helen facing the gallows. I think was Megalodon not one as well? Um,
I think
I think
so.
uh,
I hope so.
then
But
also
yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty sure Megalodon was one of the bands that went over as well. Obviously Sunken State, like these are all bands that have like Sunken State being the most recent one, who have become like and Middle Grounds. I can't forget them either. Uh, but these are all bands that have kind of like become sort of cemented in the scene. They all have like, how do I say, like for me, Red Helen is legendary. They're one of my favorite bands of all time.
Red Helen was the first band that I ever saw live, by the way. First metal band that I saw. That was like 8 years ago, and I was blown away. Blown away.
Tell me a bit more like about your music and how would you guys define yourselves? Like, do you sort of put yourselves into a specific genre, and what does your music talk about in that sense?
We don't put ourselves into a specific genre, but when we started out, we did play with the idea of melodic modern metal. When the band initially started, it was actually an instrumental project, and we were just going to do proggy stuff. But then the more we thought about it, we were like, you know what? All of us, we're so used to like the deathcore and the death metal. We would like to really encompass the prettier side of metal as well. And we thought, getting a front woman would actually be fantastic because we want those melodies. We want that prettiness, the contrast or the juxtaposition between heavy riffs and beautiful, clean singing. Yeah, I mean, I suppose in a way you can say that we're probably the closest to modern melodic metal, but we're not trying to be anything specific. We just want to make pretty metal.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's the goal. We're just a bunch of musicians that really love music, and Hiraeth kind of fulfill a particular part within ourselves that other bands don't. And I know for myself and Gary, that is the case where Marshmallow and Human Nebula fulfills a completely different side of our musicianship, and the kind of like the more aggressive, fun, not so serious bands, whereas Hiraeth is more the beautiful, elegant baby. And our lyrics, for example, tend to be very deep and well thought out and about deeper concepts, whereas Marshmallow and Human Nebula is a bit more, for the people. And the most important element of Hiraeth that differentiates us from other bands is that element of the very feminine, clean lady vocals, along with the very harsh male vocals and heavy music. So, yeah.
You guys have both been involved in the scene for quite a bit of time, and how do you feel about the state of the scene in South Africa, specifically at the moment, from where it once was, obviously everything that it went through with COVID, all those things, and where we currently stand? What are your thoughts on it?
From my personal perspective, like from what I've seen, okay, but I don't think it probably applies to everyone. But, right before COVID, it seemed pretty healthy. People were going buck wild until the early hours of the morning. Then COVID hit, and sadly, we'd lost a number of phenomenal bands. We saw bands left, right, and center breaking up. And what hurt even more was it was a lot of the younger bands. Um, they're the people we need to keep our scene healthy. Someone to take the torch, so to speak, and to carry our South African scene forward. And to see a lot of the younger kids breaking up or giving up or because of that. And, COVID presented a lot of difficulties for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. Unfortunately, some of it was grief, after losing someone or losing a livelihood. Those things are pretty serious. So when you see it happening to younger people, obviously it's quite sad. And then shortly thereafter, I noticed that people would go home at a show at about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock.
That was like the last 2 years after COVID. That was still
Yeah,
the
do you
case.
remember?
people were in this habit of like when shows started happening again, we noticed that everyone was in this habit of going home at 10. Like that was the vibe for 2 years after COVID.
Yeah. It's almost like this V shape, It was like peak scene, crash COVID, the slow climb, Don't buy stocks at this point yet. And then now, in the last 2 years, maybe, I'm starting to see a lot more of like new and younger faces at shows, and
But
that is
also extremely good bands from the bat. Like when I joined Hiraeth, I still had to learn so much in the metal community and about metal. But I feel like bands starting now, especially young bands, they just they just fucking nail this shit. You give them their first show and they're just doing it and
Yeah,
like performing and
it's actually pretty intimidating.
yeah.
The first time people started speaking to me about a backtrack, I was like,
Okay,
what the fuck
boomer.
is that? Yeah, what the fuck is that? That's not real. You gotta press a button and make a sound in the middle of your show. That's just silly. But yeah, what Marty's saying is right. It's like almost like oh, this is gonna
The
sound
skill
bad.
floor has increased.
Yeah. Yeah, you put it so much better. But the bands entering now, it's like they're just on it. And I don't know if that's a byproduct of being more connected to the world than like say when I was their age.
But I also noticed that bands are paying more attention to professionalism and their sound. Whereas what I found back in the day or when I started and earlier than that, people were a bit more flexible with how they conduct themselves on stage. And I just feel like there's a sense of professionalism that just skyrocketed.
That is actually so true. Because I remember in the early days of like, like Facing the Gallows, Gun Down Goliath, all those bands, the metalcore era, whatever you call it, people were wasted. And when you saw a band that was conducting themselves professionally, it was kind of few and far between. Red Helen being one of them. I've never seen people be so professional, prompt, and just absolutely crush it every single time. But with a lot of the other bands at the time, it was kind of like, we'll see how it goes. They may be great tonight, they may not be, But nowadays, I've definitely noticed, like Marty pointed out, that the younger generation seems to be more composed and more professional.
Yeah, just
which is actually a good thing.
Yeah, they're just mindful overall about how they present themselves.
I think like a lot of the guys that they're looking up to are also like a lot of the guys in the local scene, like you said, are a lot more professional these days. And those are the role models that, what is the first step when you want to start a band, when you want to get involved in the scene, is you start going to shows. You start, like, where do I find this type of music? And a lot of the time it's, they go to a show, and I know this is the case for me, as I went to a show and I was like, holy shit, this is what I want to do. The people that they're watching there. But once again, what you said as well is that it's the internet of how much better connected we are. What is considered good, that bar has raised dramatically. The first show I ever played, I was fucking terrible. Like, I don't think I was ready to be on stage at all. And Divan, for instance, Divan's a damn good example of this, actually.
What the fuck?
Turned 19
I was even saying
at your
to
guys' heat. Okay, I would argue that he's...
It's true. If you had to see how I played at 19, I was so surprised that someone wanted to give me money when I got off the stage. I was like, I should pay you and apologize because that was dog shit.
Divan is a really good example because, he turned 19 at that show, and that was his very first metal show ever with a band. He's only done solo acoustic gigs prior, but that was his first actual show, and he nailed it. Like, his stage presence and everything was just so good.
Yeah, I would never have said that was his first show. like his first metal show, because like you said, his playing, his performance. I will laugh at one thing though. He did make the green mistake of unplugging his lead with his foot.
Oh,
Like
oh,
I
we give
will.
him
We've all been
we
there.
give him
It's a right.
Yeah.
It's a rite of passage.
we
Yeah.
give him so much shit about that.
I did laugh at that. I found that hilarious. But all round, what a champion.
And maybe it's like you said, maybe what they're seeing today on the internet and locally is a better portrait of how to be. And that's a good thing.
I mean, if you look at, like, if you go to a show, right, and you, for instance, you go and you see a band like Vulvodynia, and you see guitarists like Luandile or Chris. You go to a Human Nebula show and you see a guitarist like Timothy. You go and you see someone like Matthew from Sunken State. Yeah, you're gonna like, oh shit, I've got to step up my game dramatically. Because how else do you compete? You're just like, okay, this is the bar. This is what I got to try and reach. And it's good all round, actually. Like, for the general health and the growth of the scene, it's good all round. Better bands make better bands, I guess. I don't know if that could be a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that makes sense.
But that actually came out pretty poetic. I'm quite shocked. That was
You should trademark that.
guys. On that note, where can people find you? Where can people find your music? Where can people get in touch with you on socials and follow you and all of that stuff?
So, like I said earlier, it has been a small number of years where we were on hiatus. However, our stuff is out on every single major platform you can think of.
Yeah, Spotify, YouTube. We have 2 music videos on YouTube. Go check them out. We have an EP out on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, all of it. And then we're obviously on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with me today on this Tuesday evening. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a fantastic week further and all the best for the finals.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
And
much.
thank you for having us on this show. It really means a lot, man. We really love your content, and it is such a huge honor to actually be on it. So I'm super stoked. Thank you, man.